Most people expose their weakness before life even tests them. They speak too quickly, react too emotionally, explain themselves to people who never respected them from the beginning. And maybe that person is you. Maybe you keep handing your peace to strangers without realizing it. Maybe every disrespect feels personal because your mind still depends on external validation to feel valuable. That is why criticism controls you. That is why silence makes you uncomfortable. That is why one misunderstanding keeps replaying in your head for hours while your discipline slowly dies in the background. You want the truth. If you are serious about mental strength, subscribe now. Not for entertainment, for transformation. Comment control if you understand this deeply. Not emotionally, mentally. Your mouth has sabotaged more opportunities than your enemies ever did. Every unnecessary explanation weakens your presence. Every emotional reaction exposes your lack of control. Every desperate attempt to be understood reveals hidden insecurity. People can sense it immediately. The world studies emotional people carefully, not to help them. How many relationships collapsed because your ego needed the final word? How many nights were wasted replaying conversations instead of improving yourself? Your inability to remain calm under pressure has already cost you more than you realize. And deep down, you know it. That is why this message disturbs you, because part of you recognizes your own weakness inside these words. Most people cannot handle silence because silence exposes the war happening inside them. The noise disappears, the distractions fade, and suddenly they are left alone with truth. Truth about their insecurity, truth about their lack of discipline, truth about how emotionally dependent they have become. So they avoid silence constantly. Music, scrolling, talking, complaining, explaining, anything except confronting themselves honestly. But self-confrontation is where transformation begins. Seneca believed suffering reveals character, and suffering has already revealed yours many times. Pressure exposes emotional instability immediately. One difficult moment and your patience disappears. One betrayal and bitterness consumes you. One failure and your confidence collapses. That means your strength was conditional. Real strength survives discomfort. Real discipline survives humiliation. Real control survives chaos. Anybody can remain calm when life feels easy, but can you remain composed when your ego feels attacked? Can you remain silent when somebody misunderstands you intentionally? Can you stay focused while others provoke emotional reactions from you? That is where power is built. Not in motivation, in restraint. Weak people believe every thought deserves expression. Disciplined people understand that silence is often the highest form of intelligence. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to correct every misunderstanding. You do not need to explain your purpose to people committed to staying average. Some individuals only ask questions to study your insecurities, and you keep revealing them freely. You tell people your fears, your frustrations, your weaknesses, then act surprised when they weaponize those things against you later. That is not honesty. That is lack of awareness. A controlled person understands boundaries. Not everybody deserves access to your inner world. Not everybody deserves your plans. Not everybody deserves your emotional truth. Some people only want information so they can measure your weakness. And emotional people make this easy. They reveal everything instantly. Every mood, every insecurity, every frustration, every emotional wound. Then wonder why nobody respects them deeply. Because respect grows around emotional stability. People trust calm minds. People follow disciplined individuals. People admire those who remain composed under pressure, not those constantly reacting emotionally to temporary situations. Your emotions should obey your principles, not the other way around. That realization alone can change your entire life. Imagine becoming so disciplined that disrespect no longer controls your mood. Imagine becoming so focused that opinions lose their emotional power over you. Imagine becoming so internally grounded that silence no longer feels uncomfortable. That version of you exists, but your current habits are suffocating him daily. Every impulsive reaction weakens your future identity. Every emotional outburst delays your growth. Every desperate explanation destroys mystery, and mystery carries power. People fear what they cannot emotionally predict. That is why controlled individuals seem intimidating without trying. Their calmness feels heavy. Their silence feels intentional. Their presence communicates discipline before words even begin. Meanwhile, emotional people reveal everything immediately. They cannot hide frustration, cannot hide desperation, cannot hide insecurity. Their reactions expose them completely, and life punishes emotional exposure brutally, especially for men trying to build respect. Nobody trusts a person controlled by temporary feelings. Not leaders, not warriors, not disciplined minds, because unstable emotions create unstable decisions, and unstable decisions destroy futures. This is why the Stoics obsessed over perception. Not because feelings are evil, because uncontrolled feelings distort judgment. Anger blinds logic. Fear weakens action. Validation addiction destroys independence. And once your emotions dominate perception, reality becomes distorted through insecurity. That is dangerous. You start making decisions emotionally instead of strategically. You chase temporary relief instead of long-term strength. You avoid discomfort instead of using discomfort to sharpen yourself. That is why most people never evolve. They protect comfort more than potential. But growth demands discomfort. Always. A disciplined mind accepts this immediately. Weak minds complain about it endlessly, because this message is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming untouchable internally. There is a difference. Cold people suppress emotions. Controlled people master emotions. One runs from feeling. The other governs feeling. That is Stoicism. And Stoicism is not passive weakness like modern people assume. It is psychological warfare against your lower nature, against impulse, against emotional addiction, against ego, against the childish need to explain yourself constantly. You must kill that need completely. Nobody owes you understanding. Read that carefully. Nobody owes you understanding. The moment you accept that truth, freedom begins entering your life. Because now your peace stops depending on external approval. Now your confidence becomes internal. Now your discipline becomes stronger than public opinion. And that changes your entire energy. People notice when somebody no longer seeks validation. Your walk changes. Your voice changes. Your reactions change. Your standards change. You stop performing. You stop chasing. You stop arguing unnecessarily. And suddenly your silence speaks louder than emotional people screaming for attention. And right now, you are probably suffering because you still believe your value depends on public perception. That belief is poisoning your mind slowly. Because once your identity depends on approval, you become emotionally available to everybody. Anybody can disturb your peace. Anybody can manipulate your emotions. Anybody can redirect your focus with a single opinion. Marcus Aurelius warned himself constantly about this weakness. He reminded himself that the mind becomes colored by the thoughts it repeatedly entertains. Think about that deeply. If your mind constantly entertains rejection, disrespect, validation, comparison, and emotional chaos, what kind of identity are you building internally? Not strength, dependence. That is why you feel mentally exhausted even when physically resting. Your body is sitting still, but your mind is fighting invisible battles constantly. Arguments that already ended, moments that already passed, opinions from people who will never matter in 5 years. And still, you carry them emotionally like chains around your neck. That is not power. That is self-inflicted suffering. Epictetus taught one brutal truth most people avoid completely. Some things are within your control. Some things are not. Simple. But emotionally weak people fight reality every day instead of accepting this principle. They try controlling opinions, controlling outcomes, controlling how people interpret them, controlling who stays, controlling who leaves. And because reality refuses obedience, frustration consumes them. A disciplined person understands something deeper. The only true territory you own is your inner world. Your thoughts, your reactions, your discipline, your perception. Everything else is temporary. That realization should humble you immediately, because the people you are trying desperately to impress are temporary. The opinions hurting your feelings are temporary. The emotional storms inside your mind are temporary. But the damage created by emotional impulsiveness can become permanent. One angry decision can destroy years. One emotional reaction can ruin opportunities. One moment without control can expose weakness people never forget. This is why Stoics valued restraint more than emotional expression. Not because they feared emotion, because they understood consequences. Modern people worship expression. The Stoics worshipped mastery. Completely different mindset. Today people say whatever they feel immediately. If they are angry, they explode. If they feel insecure, they overshare. If they feel rejected, they chase validation desperately. Everything becomes emotional performance. But a Stoic understood that every impulse does not deserve obedience. That principle alone separates disciplined minds from distracted minds. You do not have to obey every emotion you feel. You do not have to react to every insult. You do not have to explain every decision. You do not have to defend yourself against every misunderstanding. Sometimes silence is the highest form of self-respect. And insecure people hate silence, because silence forces accountability. When you stop reacting emotionally, people lose access to your weaknesses. They can no longer predict you easily. They can no longer manipulate your emotional state for entertainment. And this unsettles them. Look carefully at emotionally reactive people. They are easy to control. You know exactly what triggers them, exactly what hurts them, exactly how to disturb their peace. That is why uncontrolled emotions become dangerous. They expose your internal vulnerabilities publicly. Meanwhile, disciplined people become unreadable, not fake, not emotionless, controlled. And control creates presence. Have you ever entered a room where one calm person carried more authority than everybody speaking loudly? That is not accidental. Calmness communicates internal order. People feel it subconsciously. A composed mind radiates stability, and stability becomes magnetic in a chaotic world. Most individuals today are mentally fragmented. Constant stimulation destroyed their attention. Social media destroyed their patience. Validation addiction destroyed their inner confidence. Now they cannot sit quietly for 10 minutes without needing distraction. That weakness becomes obvious during hardship. The moment discomfort appears, they collapse emotionally, because comfort made them fragile. Seneca warned that a man who suffers before necessary suffers more than necessary. And look at society now. People suffer endlessly inside imagination, imaginary rejection, imaginary failure, imaginary judgment. They torture themselves mentally over things that have not even happened. That is lack of mental discipline. A Stoic trains perception carefully. He understands the event itself is rarely the true enemy. Interpretation is, two people experience the same hardship. One becomes stronger, the other becomes bitter. Same event, different perception. That insight changes everything. Your life is shaped less by events and more by the meaning you attach to them. Rejection can become humiliation, or redirection. Pain can become victimhood, or transformation. Silence can become loneliness, or power. Everything depends on perception, and perception depends on discipline. That is why weak minds remain trapped. They interpret every hardship emotionally. Every criticism feels personal. Every setback feels permanent. Every obstacle feels unfair. Meanwhile, disciplined individuals use suffering as training. They ask different questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this teaching me? That mindset creates resilience, and resilience creates emotional independence. You need emotional independence badly, because right now, too many external things still control your mood. Somebody ignores you, your energy changes. Somebody criticizes you, your confidence drops. Somebody rejects you, your identity feels attacked. That means your emotional foundation is unstable. And unstable foundations collapse under pressure. The Stoics trained for pressure intentionally. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would encounter difficult people, selfish people, arrogant people, manipulative people, ungrateful people. He prepared mentally before facing reality. Modern people do the opposite. They expect comfort constantly, so reality shocks them emotionally every time discomfort appears. That is why ordinary criticism destroys modern minds. They were never trained internally. No discipline, no restraint, no emotional endurance, just reactions. That is why your generation explains everything constantly. Because internally, many people are desperate to feel understood. But understanding yourself matters more than being understood by strangers. Read that again carefully. Understanding yourself matters more than being understood by strangers. A Stoic does not waste years chasing approval. He studies his own weaknesses honestly, his anger, his ego, his fear, his laziness, his emotional dependency, and instead of hiding from these flaws, he disciplines them. That is real self-improvement, not motivational quotes, not pretending online. Discipline, consistency, awareness, painful honesty. And honesty is rare because truth threatens the ego. Maybe you are not emotionally controlled because life is unfair. Maybe you are emotionally controlled because you never trained your mind properly. Maybe your reactions are habits. Maybe your insecurity became identity. Maybe your emotional impulsiveness became normalized through years of repetition. That possibility should disturb you, because habits create destiny silently. The person who cannot control small emotional reactions eventually loses control during major moments too. Life always escalates weakness eventually. That is why discipline in ordinary moments matters deeply. How you respond to small irritation matters. How you respond to disrespect matters. How you respond to delays matters. Everything trains your nervous system. Every reaction reinforces identity. If you constantly react emotionally, you strengthen emotional impulsiveness. If you practice restraint, you strengthen control. You are always becoming something, consciously or unconsciously. Most people unconsciously train weakness daily. Complaining trains victimhood. Oversharing trains insecurity. Seeking validation trains dependency. Escaping discomfort trains cowardice. And then they wonder why they feel powerless internally. Because power requires sacrifice. You must sacrifice emotional addiction. You must sacrifice the need for constant approval. You must sacrifice impulsiveness. You must sacrifice the childish desire to explain yourself endlessly. Not everybody deserves explanations. That lesson will save your peace. Some people misunderstand intentionally, not accidentally. No explanation will change their perspective because their judgment was emotional from the beginning. And emotionally committed people rarely seek truth. They seek confirmation. That is why arguing with certain individuals drains your energy completely. You are trying to use logic against emotional investment. Impossible battle. The Stoics understood this deeply. That is why they protected attention carefully. Attention is life. Whatever controls your attention eventually controls your direction. And most people have zero control over attention now. Their emotions decide everything. Anger steals focus. Comparison steals peace. Validation seeking steals discipline. And distraction steals years silently. Years. Imagine wasting years emotionally reacting instead of building yourself quietly. That happens every day. People spend entire decades explaining themselves instead of transforming themselves. They talk about discipline more than practicing discipline. Talk about healing more than enduring hardship. Talk about goals more than building results. Words become emotional comfort. But comfort without action creates delusion. A Stoic respects action, because action reveals truth. Anybody can speak confidently. Anybody can perform wisdom online. But pressure reveals reality. Pressure exposes discipline. Pressure exposes character. Pressure exposes emotional maturity. That is why hardship is useful. Hardship removes illusions. When life becomes painful, masks begin falling off. The emotionally dependent become desperate. The weak-minded become bitter. The undisciplined become chaotic. But internally strong people become calmer, more focused, more intentional, because suffering trained them instead of destroying them. And maybe your suffering is trying to train you right now, but you keep resisting the lesson emotionally. Maybe life is teaching you detachment, teaching you restraint, teaching you emotional discipline, teaching you silence. But instead of learning, you keep reacting impulsively to every uncomfortable feeling. Growth cannot happen there. Transformation requires observation. You must learn to observe yourself honestly. Watch your reactions. Watch your triggers. Watch your need for approval. Watch your emotional habits carefully, because awareness creates control. Most people never observe themselves deeply. They only observe others, comparing, judging, competing. Meanwhile, their own mind remains undisciplined and chaotic. That is why solitude mattered to Stoics. Solitude reveals truth. When distractions disappear, your real condition appears. Your fears become visible. Your emotional dependency becomes visible. Your lack of control becomes visible. And weak people run from this immediately. They fear being alone with themselves, because deep down they know something inside needs fixing. But disciplined individuals face themselves directly. That is courage. Not pretending to be fearless. Facing internal truth without escaping. You want to become mentally dangerous? Learn emotional neutrality, not emotional suppression. Neutrality, the ability to stay balanced while chaos surrounds you. The ability to think clearly while emotions scream loudly. The ability to remain calm while others lose composure. That ability changes your entire life, because calm minds make better decisions, and better decisions create better futures. Most ruined lives began with emotional decisions, emotional relationships, emotional reactions, emotional spending, emotional revenge. Emotional impulsiveness destroys more dreams than lack of talent ever will. Talent without discipline becomes inconsistency, and inconsistency destroys potential slowly. That is another painful truth. Potential means nothing without control. You can be intelligent and still self-destruct emotionally. You can be talented and still remain weak mentally. You can have dreams and still sabotage them through lack of discipline. That is why the Stoics obsessed over governing the self first. Before leading others, lead yourself. Before controlling environments, control reactions. Before demanding respect, build character. Everything begins internally, always. And once you truly understand that, your life changes permanently. Because now your focus shifts away from blame, away from excuses, away from emotional dependency. Now the focus becomes mastery. Mastery over thought, mastery over emotion, mastery over impulse, mastery over perception. That is real power, not domination over others, domination over yourself. And most people never reach it because self-mastery is painful. It requires responsibility. No victim mentality, no excuses, no emotional manipulation, just truth, raw truth. The kind that forces you to admit your reactions created many of your problems. The kind that forces you to admit your emotions controlled you more than discipline ever did. The kind that forces you to admit you were seeking validation instead of building inner certainty. That truth hurts. But pain is useful when it awakens you. Comment silence if you are starting to understand the difference between reacting emotionally and remaining internally powerful. Because this is bigger than motivation. This is identity reconstruction. You are not trying to become cold. You are trying to become unshakable. And unshakable people are built through restraint, through suffering, through awareness, through silence, through discipline practiced daily when nobody is watching. That is the path. Not easy, not glamorous, but real. And reality always rewards disciplined minds eventually. Most people never reach it because self-mastery is painful. It demands the death of the version of you that depends on emotional reactions to feel alive. And that death feels uncomfortable. Because your ego has spent years building identity around being understood, being noticed, being validated, being emotionally heard. So when silence enters your life, your ego panics. It starts screaming for attention again, explaining again, defending again, performing again. That is the war happening inside you right now. Not a war against people, a war against your lower nature. The Stoics understood this battle deeply. They knew the greatest enemy was rarely outside. It was the uncontrolled self, the impulsive self, the emotional self, the weak version that reacts before thinking and speaks before understanding consequences. That version destroys lives quietly. And maybe nobody ever told you this directly, but some of your suffering was self-created. Not by fate, not by enemies, by emotional lack of control. One reaction ruined trust. One emotional decision destroyed peace. One desperate explanation lowered your value in somebody's eyes permanently. That pain stays with you, especially during silence. Especially at night when distractions disappear and truth finally becomes loud enough to hear. Because silence remembers everything your ego tries to forget. It remembers the moments you lost control. The moments you begged to be understood. The moments you abandoned dignity trying to save connections already dying. And deep down, you know something terrifying. The more emotional you became, the less people respected you. That truth cuts deeply, because society lies constantly. It tells you emotional expression automatically creates connection. Not always. Uncontrolled emotion often creates weakness, especially when emotions begin controlling identity. Stoicism never taught emotional numbness. It taught emotional discipline. There is a difference. A Stoic feels anger, but does not become anger. Feels pain, but does not become pain. Feels rejection, but does not surrender identity because of rejection. That level of internal separation creates freedom. And freedom terrifies emotionally dependent people. Because emotionally dependent people need reactions constantly. They need reassurance constantly. They need external attention constantly. Without it, they feel empty. That emptiness is dangerous. Because empty people become easy to manipulate. Give them validation and they become loyal instantly. Give them attention and they become emotionally attached instantly. Ignore them and they begin collapsing internally. That is not love, not confidence, not strength. That is emotional dependency. And dependency destroys clarity. The Stoics warned against attachment to things outside your control for this reason exactly. Because attachment creates fear. Fear of losing people. Fear of losing approval. Fear of losing status. Fear of losing attention. And fear weakens decision-making. Suddenly your choices are no longer based on principles. They are based on emotional survival. Now you are performing instead of living authentically. Now you are reacting instead of thinking clearly. Now your emotions own you. Look at how most people react during disrespect. Instant anger. Instant explanation. Instant emotional defense. Why? Because the ego feels threatened. But a Stoic sees disrespect differently. He understands another person's behavior reveals their internal state more than his own value. That perspective changes everything. When somebody insults him, he observes first. When somebody attacks him emotionally, he remains centered first. Not because he is weak, because he understands emotional reactions give power away. The moment somebody controls your emotions, they gain influence over your mind. That is why calmness becomes a weapon. Not fake calmness. Real internal control. The kind developed through suffering and awareness. Most people fake composure until pressure arrives. Then their real condition appears immediately. Pressure exposes emotional weakness fast. That is why hardship is valuable. Hardship reveals who you really are beneath performance. Anybody can appear disciplined when life feels comfortable. But remove comfort and truth appears quickly. Some people become focused under pain. Others become destructive. Some people become wiser through suffering. Others become bitter. Same pain, different mindset. That is why perception matters more than circumstance. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that the obstacle itself could become the path. Think about that deeply. The thing hurting you right now could become the thing transforming you mentally. But only if you stop reacting emotionally long enough to learn from it. Most people never learn. They only react. Life hits them. They complain. Life challenges them. They collapse emotionally. Life tests patience. They explode impulsively. Then they wonder why growth never happens. Because growth requires awareness during suffering, not emotional chaos during suffering. And maybe your biggest problem was never pain itself. Maybe your biggest problem was your inability to stay composed while experiencing pain. That changes the entire conversation. Because now responsibility returns to you. Now the focus shifts inward. Now excuses lose power. And the ego hates that. The ego loves blame. Blame protects weakness. Blame protects emotional immaturity. Blame allows people to avoid confronting themselves honestly. But Stoicism destroys blame completely. It forces accountability. Painful accountability. The kind that asks uncomfortable questions. Why are you emotionally reactive? Why do opinions disturb your peace so deeply? Why do you feel the need to explain yourself constantly? Why does rejection destroy your confidence? Why does misunderstanding feel unbearable? Those questions expose attachment. And attachment creates emotional slavery. A free mind does not collapse because somebody misunderstands it. A disciplined mind does not panic because approval disappears. A Stoic does not beg for validation from unstable people. He remains grounded within himself. That is real power. Internal stability. The ability to stay mentally anchored while external chaos tries pulling you apart. That ability is rare now. Modern people are overstimulated and emotionally exhausted. Their attention is fractured. Their patience destroyed. Their nervous systems addicted to constant stimulation. That is why silence feels unbearable for many people. Silence removes escape routes. And when escape disappears, truth becomes impossible to ignore. You begin seeing your addictions clearly, your emotional habits clearly, your insecurities clearly, your lack of discipline clearly. That moment becomes a crossroads. Weak people distract themselves again immediately. Strong people confront themselves honestly. One path creates temporary comfort. The other creates transformation. Transformation always hurts first, because becoming stronger requires leaving old identities behind. And your old identity probably depended heavily on emotional validation. Maybe you wanted everyone to understand your intentions. Maybe you wanted recognition for your sacrifices. Maybe you wanted people to acknowledge your pain. Human, but dangerous when attachment forms around it. Because now your peace depends on external response. Now your emotions fluctuate based on how others treat you. That is unstable living. A Stoic seeks stability internally first, not externally. Because external things change constantly. People change. Feelings change. Situations change. Opinions change. Everything outside you remains unstable. So building identity on unstable foundations creates suffering automatically. That is why disciplined individuals become detached from public opinion gradually. Not arrogant, detached. There is a difference. Arrogance seeks superiority. Detachment seeks freedom. A Stoic does not need applause to continue. Does not need validation to stay disciplined. Does not need emotional reassurance every day to maintain purpose. His standards become internal. And internal standards create consistency. That is why Stoic individuals appear different during hardship. While emotional people panic, they observe. While emotional people react impulsively, they think carefully. While emotional people seek someone to blame, they seek lessons. That mindset creates resilience slowly. Not instantly, slowly, day by day, reaction by reaction, choice by choice. Every moment becomes training. Every irritation becomes practice. Every delay becomes practice. Every insult becomes practice. Life becomes mental conditioning for stronger identity. That is how Stoics viewed suffering. Not punishment, preparation. Preparation for greater control. greater awareness, greater discipline, and maybe your current struggles are preparing you too. But preparation only works if awareness exists. Otherwise, pain becomes wasted suffering. Many people suffer repeatedly without evolving because they refuse self-examination. They repeat emotional cycles endlessly. Same reactions, same mistakes, same emotional breakdowns, different situations, same mind. That is why mindset matters more than motivation. Motivation disappears quickly. Mindset remains during pressure, and pressure reveals what truly controls you. Not your words, your reactions. Anybody can speak about discipline, but can you remain calm while disrespected? Can you remain silent while misunderstood? Can you stay composed while emotionally triggered? That reveals true growth. Not speeches, not appearances, not online performances. Reality. And reality exposes everyone eventually, especially during suffering. That is why Stoicism feels heavy, because it removes illusions, removes excuses, removes emotional hiding places. It forces you to see yourself clearly, your ego, your impulses, your dependency, your weakness. And many people are terrified of that level of honesty, because once you truly see yourself clearly, change becomes unavoidable. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer blame endlessly. You can no longer hide behind emotional reactions. Now responsibility belongs to you, completely. And responsibility is terrifying for emotionally immature minds, because responsibility demands action, discipline, consistency, control, not excuses, not emotional performances, control. That is why the strongest people often speak the least. They understand words mean nothing without inner mastery. They conserve energy, observe carefully, react intentionally, and move strategically. Meanwhile, emotionally reactive people waste years fighting battles created by their own impulses. One argument ruins their focus. One rejection ruins their confidence. One betrayal ruins their peace. Their emotional state changes constantly because their inner foundation remains unstable. Do not become that person anymore. Build internal stability aggressively. Protect your mind aggressively. Train emotional discipline daily, because one day life will test you beyond comfort. And in that moment, motivation will not save you. Discipline will. Silence will. Control will. That is the difference between people destroyed by pressure and people transformed by pressure. One reacts emotionally, the other remains grounded. One loses identity during chaos, the other discovers identity during chaos. Decide carefully which person you are becoming. One day, your life will split into two versions: the version controlled by emotion, and the version controlled by discipline. One will keep explaining, keep reacting, keep chasing validation from people who never built anything meaningful themselves. The other version will move differently, silent, focused, unshakable. And the terrifying truth is this: every reaction you make today is deciding which version survives. Because character is not built during comfort. Character is revealed during pressure. When life humiliates you, when people misunderstand you, when silence becomes lonely, when nobody claps for your progress. That is where your real identity appears. Not the version you show online, the version hiding underneath pressure. So ask yourself honestly, who controls your mind right now? Your discipline or your emotions? Because if strangers can disturb your peace with words, your mind still belongs to the world. And a mind owned by the world will never experience true freedom. The Stoics understood this deeply. That is why they mastered themselves first. Not the crowd, not public opinion, not external validation, themselves. And now it is your turn. Stop explaining your vision to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop reacting emotionally to temporary situations. Stop leaking your energy trying to prove your worth. Your life becomes dangerous the moment your actions become louder than your emotions. That is when respect changes. That is when focus sharpens. That is when peace finally enters your mind. Because calm people carry hidden power. and disciplined people become impossible to control. So from this moment forward, observe more, speak less, react slower, think deeper, move with purpose, and let silence become your weapon instead of your weakness. If this message woke something inside you, subscribe now. Not because this channel needs followers, because disciplined minds must stay connected in a world addicted to distraction and emotional chaos. This channel is for people rebuilding themselves mentally, people tired of weakness, people tired of emotional dependency, people ready to become calmer, sharper, and harder to break. And if you truly understand this mindset, comment control below. Not for me, for yourself. Let that word become a reminder that your emotions will never control your future again. And share this video with somebody who keeps destroying their peace trying to explain themselves to everybody around them. Some people need this wake-up call before life teaches it painfully. Now look at the next video appearing on your screen. Do not ignore it, because the next lesson may be the one that completely changes how you think, react, and move through life. Watch it now. Train your mind, master yourself, and become the person pressure cannot break.